The only lesson to be learned in a performance like that is that if you want to build anything that is of value, it will take time and effort and a commitment to one particular style. Chelsea travel to Etihad Stadium and lose 1-0 to the champions. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour.
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is your Chelsea match review, but more specifically a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance at the Etihad versus the champions Man City. But before I get into all that, you know what to do. We are trying to grow this channel. We need your help. You can do that by hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button to keep up with the latest. It will help me immensely as we are trying to attach to this algorithm, and it will also help my partners who go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Hit them up. The link will be in the description. Now, I watched that game against City today, and I went into it with zero expectations, just hoping to see some performances from players that we hope to use to kick on, and hoping to see some semblance of an idea of football, a style of play. And I left really just admiring Man City, not necessarily for how they built their squad, because we can all see that that was done illegally to some extent. But the style of play, the methodology employed, the tactics obviously involved, it's very, very astounding. It was astounding really to see a team that hasn't really had the familiarity of playing together all the time have such a deep understanding of the system, have such an unselfish way of playing. I mean, there were so many opportunities where City were in the ascendancy getting into the final third, and guys in great positions passing up those opportunities for people in better positions. And that is just a maturity in play and a real understanding of what the manager wants to achieve on the pitch being implemented and executed at an extremely high level. I mean, they didn't really create a lot of opportunities overall, but whenever they were in the first and second phases of their build-up play, you can tell that the rehearsed moves, the ability to understand where the ball needs to be worked once they produced a turnover, it's like clockwork. And this is exactly where Chelsea are not right now. We do not have a dedicated style of play. We do not have a dedicated system. The end result is you're seeing a bunch of individuals trying to, do things on their own rather than work within a unit to achieve greatness. And it's just in stark contrast to a team that's been working under Pep Guardiola for 7-8 years now, however long it is. It feels like that long. It's probably even less than that, but they all have an understanding of what they're trying to do, and the communication and the ability to really understand the tactics is just there to behold. Maybe that's part of the reason why it takes such a long time for Pep Guardiola to work in new players. They really have to understand the language and the communication that he's passing on to his team and whatnot. And maybe that takes a little longer than it does for some other managers to implement their style. But once it's implemented, it is clockwork. And I get it. A lot of people just wanted to see Chelsea roll out a squad that, again, is just very unfamiliar, but gives players that may not have had a lot of opportunities an opportunity to play, an opportunity to test themselves against the best. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best approach for young players who are searching for confidence, struggling to find an identity. I would rather any instruction that is given to this young setup right now to come from the permanent manager, somebody that we want to implement their style of play, because you get Lampard telling them about how he wants to press, how he wants to play without a possession, how he wants to basically be compact and tight. It's a completely different philosophy to that of Pochettino. And for me, I don't want to have these guys, these young players, have too much in their head right now. I want them to focus on one particular style of play, one particular ideology, one particular methodology, and just work it to death. Use Man City as an example of what a rehearsed, repeated philosophy can produce. Even when it comes to something like pressing, where, only the great minds in football understand how to press effectively, how to, press from the front. And, I don't necessarily know if I want that sort of instruction coming from somebody that hasn't shown the ability to do it effectively. I would rather have that instruction, that one-time instruction about how you press from the front, how you, press as a unit, how you win the ball back effectively, to come from somebody that has done it successfully, and can implement it, has had a methodology into what he's trying to do and has shown that he can implement it. And it's for that reason that I had no problem with the selections today. I mean, everyone was banging on. They wanted to see Madueke. They wanted to see Mudryk, maybe even Datro Fofana, myself included. I wouldn't mind have seen him myself. But, for the large majority of this game, Chelsea were going to be playing out of possession. And you need people that understand what the assignment is and a willingness to work off the ball. I mean, when you're playing against a side like Man City, in order to compete, you have to do three things very, very well. You have to close spaces extremely well. You have to be able to, soak up pressure extremely well. You have to be able to win the ball. In essence, you have to be very good out of possession, very organized and whatnot. And I don't think that the players that I've named previously have the ability to understand what it means to be out of possession and to be compact and to win the ball back and to close spaces quickly. Their head is somewhere else. They're thinking about how to attack spaces. They're thinking about what to do when they're in possession of the football. But for large chunks of games against a team like Man City, you're going to be out of possession. And you have to be comfortable out of possession to be effective against a team like that. So I don't have any problem with the selection so much. I thought that the substitutions came at about the right time as well, and it injected some energy. It was just a matter of, again, coming to grips with what the game was asking for. And Madueke and Mudryk come on, and while they weren't bad in possession, I thought that they showed some energy and, an injection of pace and whatnot. Whenever we had to defend, again, just the understanding of defending a complex system like Pep Guardiola's, left us wanting, and we were out of possession for large chunks of that final, 15 minutes of the game. We're hoping that under Pochettino, the understanding, the tutelage will continue, and some of these younger players like Madueke, Mudryk, Carney, who I thought gave us some good minutes in the time that he did have in possession, of course, again, making good decisions, thrusting forward, giving us that final third pass, that stuff will come in time. The one thing that you don't have to coach from the likes of, certain players on the pitch, like the Maduekes and the Carneys, is what to do when in possession. It's the things like what you do out of possession and what you do to get in possession of the football that needs a lot of work, and we just don't have, the personnel to teach it right now. So City are very close to what is the finished article, so much so that their B-C team are coming in and giving us a match, a real match, and winning it. It's to the point where this is what you want to aspire Chelsea to be. You want to see a team that has consistently stuck to a style of play that is conducive to attack-minded football, possession-based football, and do it at a high enough level. And you can only really see the fruits of that, I think, after a couple of years, with the same regiment, the same ideology being enforced. Chelsea have a history of chopping and changing philosophies, going from one particular style of play to the exact opposite, a couple months later. And that is essentially what's kept us so disjointed the last few years. I mean, as the saying goes, a wind that blows in many directions does nothing but to upset the skies. It's only one that blows consistently in one direction that can actually, really affect change and whatnot. And that's where Chelsea are right now, because we've changed our philosophy so often, and because we've gone from left to right to north to south in terms of an ideology. We just look so disjointed. It's done so much so. We've done it so much the last little while that we've lost a sense of identity. And, this is the next step of our evolution right now, finding a way, a methodology to play, something that's identifiable and something that is consistently being implemented time and time again, regardless of who the manager is. Now, overall, if you ask me how I thought Chelsea played against City's B team, C team, however you want to categorize it, I would tell you that I thought we played pretty decently. We created a fair few amount of opportunities that, again, we were unable to take. I thought that we attacked with some real verve. There was a consistency to what we were trying to do in attacking scenarios, down the flank, cutting it back in the middle, looking for somebody to, destabilize that middle portions of the defense and, slip people in. And I thought that we did that effectively. Enzo Fernandez on the ball, first time looking up, playing it into space. How often did we see Raheem Sterling get in behind the defense and, time his runs correctly just to miss, the final hurdle? The build-up play, in particular, initiated by Enzo Fernandez and Ruben Loftus-Cheek as his number 6 counterpart. I thought that we were very good in those areas. It's just now taking the next step in our evolution and finding somebody that can unlock that final third, finding somebody that can finish these opportunities, finding somebody that recognizes that the game needs to slow down even though it speeds up in those, those 15 to 20 meters of the final third. This is what we need to do. This is where we need to be as a football club, understanding that when we get into these areas, we have to be more clinical, more precise in our movements, and, just take the opportunities as they're presented to them. I thought even Lewis Hall was very good at getting into the final third, and, it's just, again, the decision making once you're there and the execution that seems to be lacking. Like, I've seen this guy all season long. He gets into great areas. As a wingback, he really understands where he needs to be, where he needs to attack. It's just finishing for him right now. Overall, I thought that his application, what was being asked of him, was being implemented. It's just not being executed, at a high enough level for us to, really see the fruits of it. And this is essentially what Chelsea Football Club has become, a club that is capable of breaking down high presses and, advancing the ball in transition and getting into the final third. But as soon as we get there, the decision making and execution is just so poor. And this game against Man City was no different. I thought that we did a great job of getting into transition, breaking down their high press, finding the angles where we can exploit, finding the soft spots, and getting into, whether we used, Enzo Fernandez's, passing range, or of course Ruben Loftus-Cheek's ability to get by in 1v1 situations to get into the final third. I thought we were very good at breaking their press. It was just when we got into the final third, what we were offering there was just still of a level that is not Chelsea standard. It's not what we want to see for a club that is supposed to be challenging at the highest level in Europe. I mean, for me, it's a shame that we have to applaud the work of Pep Guardiola, the work that he's done in implementing his style of play and getting so many people to buy into it and, really execute at a high level. But especially because, this is just an illegal squad altogether. You look at this Man City team and that nefarious work was done behind the scenes in order for them to build the club that they've had right now. And for that, I don't really rate their titles. I don't really rate their championships. I do rate the way they implement their football. I do rate the fact that Pep Guardiola has a methodology that is flawless. And, when he comes up against, high-level competition, he's able to still show the quality of their football against anyone. It's very rare you see Man City play their game and not be doing exactly what they want to do on the pitch, not implement their style of play, and impose it on their opponent. It happens every game. It's just whether or not they win or lose. In the Champions League, we're seeing that they're winning a little bit more now, but before, they would play the same way and the results just would go against them. It just would not happen for them. Not for lack of tactics, not for lack of understanding on the pitch. Just, the rub of the green just has not gone their way. At the highest level, you have to be clinical. You have to take the 1 and 2 opportunities that are presented to you. And I think that with Man City, they've built up a methodology and a philosophy, a way of playing that if this one doesn't go, the next one will. The next one will. They create a plethora of opportunities to score goals, and once you miss 2, 3, and 4 in the Champions League, those opportunities just get sealed off, and you're not seeing them anymore. So I think what's changed with them right now is they've just gotten a lot more clinical. Their methodology hasn't changed, but their execution in the key moments has gotten highly efficient. There's absolutely no denying that Pep Guardiola has taken what they've given him and turned what I would consider water to wine. But with that said, I'm going to have to end it right there. Chelsea travel to the Etihad and lose 1-0 after giving the champions Man City a guard of honor to walk out to. how can you really respect a club that's been built like that? I mean, you can say what you want, oh, Chelsea threw money at it as well. At least we've done it legally, you know, like it's not like we threw money at it and, you know, we're hiding our transactions under a rug or something like that. We did it, and we were very bold-faced about how we did it as well, you know, but, you know, I digress. I can't knock the style of football that they employ. You know, Pep Guardiola has done yeoman work at turning that club into a footballing machine. You know, they look so good, whether it be A team, B team, C team. You know, the methodology is there and the execution is at a very, very high level. And, you know, this is what we aspire to be as a Chelsea Football Club, not the off the pitch stuff, but more so the on the pitch stuff. A machine and a methodology that has been employed and taken on by, you know, every player at the club, whether you play 10 minutes here, 10 games here, regardless, you have to be able to buy into this if you're going to be at this club. And that's what I think Chelsea need to work towards, you know, that way, that sort of like ideology, that understanding, you know, that everything that we do right now is about the product on the pitch. And if you're not buying into it, if you think that, you know, your individual stats, your unselfishness is not something that you want to explore, then maybe this isn't the right club for you, at least in my opinion. I'd rather see people that, you know, have an understanding and want to execute the football that is being employed here, not go on, you know, these maverick runs on their own and try and create something on their own. Let's build as a team. Guys, it's close to the end. I'm so excited to hear that because this season needs to end now. I don't even know who the next game is. I'm sure it's another bigger promo, maybe like Newcastle or something like that. So look for more then. Look for me to come back then and give you a little bit more of this Couch Critic. But until then, keep the blue flag flying high. Up with Chelsea. Peace.